today we are going to be having a guest. Her name is Rebecca. And I've been talking to her for the last maybe couple of weeks during the Podfest type of thing. And then all of a sudden we just chatted even earlier this morning, briefly. And then we chatted today. And then she told me to hush because she wanted to be zenned out, because she wants to be cool when she comes on the call today. Now, it's all about happiness today. And it's going to be a great, great call. And just an FYI, this is the number that we should be calling just in case that if you want to write it down, it's going to be 513-900-2221. That's Yo B2B1. Now, keep that in mind. Please do call during the time and we will make sure that we'll pick it up. But before we do that, let's go and invite Rebecca. She's been eagerly waiting. So, Rebecca, how are you? And thanks for coming to Back to Basics.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for the opportunity being on your show. And yes, I love sharing and I love meeting you and new people. Back to basics. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you again. And before we talk about the happiness and your journey and the things that you do, things you don't do, and all that fun stuff, what does Back to Basic mean to you?
Back to basics means keeping it simple with the truth. The truth is an underlining back to basics. You're going back to basics without the truth, then you're going to be off. So the truth is included.
Yeah.
Back to the truth. Let's get back to the truth, telling the truth to ourselves.
Well, I think that's a normal thing to do, isn't it? But it seems like no one really does that.
No, not a lot of people do that because one of the reasons telling the truth requires this mirror.
That's right.
In the mirror, and there's not a lot of people that like to look in the mirror and say it's my responsibility. There's a lot of pointing out, but it's very rare that we look and say it's my responsibility. My feelings, my responsibility.
Yeah. Thank you, Rebecca, for answering that question. And thank you again for coming to Back to Basics. But before we start the actual interview, let me ask you this very first question of the episode. What is happiness?
Well, I say we are all as different as our fingerprints. And my definition of happiness is the ability to vibrate and be an energy of peace, regardless of what's happening. So it's nothing to do with what happens out there. My definition of happiness is the ability to be at peace, regardless of what happens and regardless of what doesn't happen.
Thank you. Thank you again for Rebecca for explaining that, because it seems like we do need to define what happiness is because everyone's definition is different. And from your perspective, you as a happiness coach, I needed to understand from that point of view. So thank you again for answering that. So Rebecca, what triggered you to be a happiness coach? I mean, there has to be something different about a coach and being happy, or is kind of the two things. So can you explain that to me if you don't mind?
Well, it's interesting that words. I'm not a coach, but I have studied. I like to say I'm a happiness specialist.
Okay.
And an inner peace practitioner and a teacher and also a student. What started it for me, was that your question? What started it? When I was younger, does anybody out there remember blowing out the candles and making a wish on your birthday, or even throwing a coin into a fountain and making a wish?
Yeah.
Well, when I was younger, I always wished for the same two things. I wanted to live to my potential. I had no idea what that meant. I had no clue, not really a direction, but I remember saying I want to live to my potential, whatever that meant. And number two, I wanted to be happy. And so with all of that, when you ask, and when you ask, you always receive. So this happiness, I'm thinking in my life, I felt really good when things were great and really bad when things didn't go the way I wanted them to go. So it was emotional up and down, feeling good because of anything external happening, not feeling so good when it didn't not feeling so good when what I thought I wanted didn't happen. And I wondered if you could maintain that peace. And let me just back up a little bit. When I say happiness, I'm really talking about, these words are interchangeable. Let me throw in another word. It's a vibration. It's an energy of contentment, peace, that vibration of satisfaction, all of it. It's the same. It's the same. So what I'm really talking about is an energy. And I kept thinking that, well, get married, titles, travel, money, all of those things would make me happy. But the sad news is, the bad news is, it never lasted. So I was looking for something that would last, something. And was that even possible? Was it possible to be at peace regardless of what's going on in the world? And let me ask you this. So what is the biggest problem? What are some of the biggest problems that are happening in the world today? Is it poverty? Is it hunger? Is it overpopulation? Is it the pandemic? Is global warming? Animal rights? I say it's unhappy people.
Well, I think the answer is yes to all, isn't it? So I think now the main question is, when people, they say, what does success mean to you? And everyone's measurement of success is different. Now, same concept for happiness. I think the measurement for happiness is also different for a lot of different people too, right? I mean, people, they can say inner peace, or they can say materialistic peace and happiness. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, let me throw something out there. There was a his name is Ted Leonsis, and he's a billionaire now. In 1993, he survived a plane crash, and he says, I'm going to change my life. I have a new outlook in life. And he's the one that started that bucket list. Remember the bucket list? So he had 101 things on his bucket list, but on that list, there was absolutely nothing that contributes to peace. And when again, it's talking about a vibration or happiness, nothing on that list. So there is let me just back up a little bit. The programming is, what is success? What is the program definition of success? My definition of success is to be able to smile on my deathbed. That's success to me, not what I accomplish. Those things are fleeting. Mandela was in a jail cell. He found peace. So it is nothing to do with anything that I do or accomplish. At least that's for me. And we've all seen and witnessed the slap heard around the world, where Will Smith was interviewed in GQ magazine in November 2021, and he said he wanted to be the biggest movie star in the world. He accomplished so much and all of his success, but you know what he said in that article? He said he wasn't happy. So it's a continuing theme. I have all of this, but I'm not happy. So that's my focus on what is peace and how do you find it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a long journey for a lot of different people, right? I mean, there was a person that I was speaking to a couple of days back on the Wisdom app, and apparently it took her a long time to find happiness. Some people, they find it very quickly. Some people, they find it late in their lives. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? The person who's looking for happiness, what are they supposed to be looking for? And should they meditate every single time to get happiness?
I don't meditate.
Okay.
But let me just back up just a little bit. There's a very powerful study that was done years ago, maybe over a decade ago. And it was done by a hospice nurse. Her name was Bronnie Ware. You can Google it, Bronnie, Bronnie Ware. And her patients, terminally ill, they had days to live, weeks to live, months to live. And she asked them, what are your 5 biggest regrets in life? What are your 5 biggest regrets? I think that's a pretty powerful question. And so the 5 biggest, and there were 5 regrets that kept coming up over and over and over again. May I share them with you?
Sure, please, please.
The 5 most common regrets of the dying. Number 1, I wish I would have pursued my dreams and aspirations and not the life others expected of me. Number 2, I wish I didn't work so hard. Number 3, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings and speak my mind. Number 4, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. And number 5, I wish I would have let myself be happier. And when you talk about success, and you talk about these words, success, well, how do we define success? In fact, where does that come from? What is success? And I contend that it is a programming, and it is the programming that causes the suffering. I didn't pop out of no one popped out knowing, having a definition of success. I mean, there's the world's definition of success. People would say Will Smith is successful, but happiness, that's to me is, and when I say happiness, that word, I know it's a lot, happy, but it is a practice skill like any other skill, being a podcaster, writing, being a chef, a landscaper, an athlete. So happiness is a practice skill. And so I just share with people what to practice.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, just that's what I said earlier, right? Because I think the measurement's a little different. But Rebecca, there's a person online. He's asking a question, and the question is, wouldn't happiness be a choice rather than a circumstance? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Happiness be a choice rather than circumstantial. Well, it is a choice, but the question comes, can you make that choice? Can you really make a choice? Let me give you a perfect example. So you're driving on the freeway and someone cuts you off in traffic. I mean, they cut you off. You have to swerve. You could have been in an accident. And usually the program, and when I say program, in fact, that's the title of my second book, Programmed for Unhappiness. Programmed for Unhappiness. So the program response is somebody's cutting you off, angry, maybe the hand goes up with where's my hand? Maybe the middle finger goes up. But what if you found out that this person is rushing to get to the hospital because they just found out that their child has been in an accident? Your anger would cease and you would have more compassion. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So the programming is really the challenge in recognizing the programming, meaning recognize what we've all been programmed to react. And there's a difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is instant, and responding requires conscious self-awareness and also a decision. How are you going to respond? That's either going to cause peace or drama. So when I say happiness is a practice skill, it is a practice that the individual makes a commitment to. If you think it's valuable, some people don't value it or even think it's important. And I learned that lesson. A while ago. I'm thinking, yeah, everybody wants to be happy. Why not? But I discovered, no, not everybody does. And in fact, even some people, it just doesn't sit. It's like shining, the light is too bright. And that has to be okay too. But
Absolutely.
for me, it's number one.
Yeah, absolutely. Rebecca, thank you again for explaining that. And I hope that answers the person online. So thank you again for that. Rebecca, before we go forward, I just wanted to tell everybody that at the end of the interview, we will be going, asking questions. If anyone wants to call in, we'll give you 10 minutes. And then I know Rebecca has to leave, but I want to make sure that we're all mindful for the time. So the number that you should be calling is 513-900-2221, which is 513-YO-B2B1, because B2B is always number one. So here's one thing, Rebecca. Let me ask you this. When people, they say self-care, okay, the first thing people come in mind when they say self-care is ego. And ego could be so evil, right? But then ego could be a good thing and a happy thing. So what are your thoughts on that part?
Hmm. Well, what do you mean by ego? There are two entities in my head. I mean, I hear the voice, the critical voice, the ego mind, the voice that tells me something needs to be changed. This moment, I don't like it. I'm not happy with it. Something needs to be changed. So my ego really never brings me any good news. I listen to the universal voice as opposed to the ego. My ego always finds a problem with every moment.
So then let me ask you this, then what is the definition of ego? Maybe that would answer that question.
I have no idea. It is, for me, it's that voice in the head with constant thought, that voice that never quiets, the
Mm,
voice with all the stories, that
mm,
voice that tells me, I'm not happy with this. That
mm,
voice, that's what I'd say is the ego.
Yeah, thank you.
What do you say is the ego?
I really don't know. I mean, because it's kind of a double word meaning when it comes to ego, right? And as I explained on my question, some people they take ego as negativity, but some people they say ego as self care because
Mm.
sometimes you should be thinking for yourself versus others. Because if you don't take care of yourself, who else? If you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of other people either, right? So that's another definition of ego. That's another definition of self-care, and that's another definition of happiness, right? So I think it's a intertwined definition. Whoever's expert in that, please do let us know, because I think we both are kind of flustered when it comes to that type of question there.
Oh, I'm not flustered. No, I'm not flustered at all. I know exactly what I mean when I say it. So, but the thing about that is I'm just very aware and very conscious. We all experience that thinking, the constant quieting the mind. And
Yeah.
that's what I say is the ego. That's what I define ego as.
Rebecca, just an FYI, there's a person just giving you a high five and give you all the love,
Hey,
which
Jasmine.
is Jasmine Lee.
What
So
up,
Jasmine,
Jay? What
hi.
up, Jasmine?
So before we go to the next question, let me just ask you this. When you are a entrepreneur, can that be also happiness too? Or do you think that we're struggling to be happy, to get to the finish line?
Well, one of the things that I do not do is speak for anyone else but me, meaning that everyone's mm, entrepreneur. Okay, so you're talking about a title or a label. I don't really label or title anything. Life is an experience without judgment and without labels.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't say this is good, this is bad. I really do not use labels. It's in my, especially in my personal life.
Hmm.
And I like more, what's the problem? What's the challenge? What's the solution that is going to bring you peace?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, yeah, I think you'll have to define that first, right? Before you answer that question. So, yeah, thank you again, Rebecca. And I think Jason just mentioned about the ego part, and ego is edging God out, which is
Yes,
remembering reading in somewhere, wherever he read it. So, do you agree with that, or do you disagree with that?
I agree totally with that. And thank you so much for clarifying it. And that is that I totally agree. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you again, Rebecca. So I think thank you again, Rebecca, for coming on Back to Basics. But before you leave, can you explain what Rebecca is all about, if you don't mind? And because I know who you are, and I've been talking to you for the last couple of weeks now, can you explain to others that who Rebecca is and why Rebecca is, and why are you so vibrant as you always are whenever I talk to you?
Who am I?
Exactly.
How about this? How about asking, how do I handle a challenge?
Okay.
Who am I? I am someone that very driven to find answers to life's struggles and challenges, to find the truth. I'm very driven to, and it has nothing to do with what I own. It has something to do with how I navigate on this journey. Who am I? I'm just a conscious energy. How's that? I'm conscious energy.
There you go. I think you are a very awesome, energetic person whenever I talk to you. So I think that's my definition. How about that?
Okay, I'll take that.
Okay.
I'll take that.
Awesome. So I think Jason wanted to say something again. I think Jason is just a fan of the show. It looks like. Are humans supposed to be internally happy? If not, then why do we continue to force it?
What an interesting question. And one of the things that I really don't do in my real life is answer hypothetical questions. But let me see if I can help with this one.
Sure.
Who we are is how we were. Is you have to go back to when you were born, 6 months, a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years. That's who you really are. For all the programming, before you learned how to blame someone else for how you're feeling, before you learned how to have expectations, before you learned how to compare yourself with someone else. Who you are, there is a before you learned how to live in the past or live in the future. Who you are at your core is something totally different than who you have been programmed to be.
Yeah. Thank you again, Rebecca, for answering that question. Jason, I hope that answers your question. So thank you again. But Rebecca, before you leave from Back to Basics and before we take other calls from other people when we open the lines, let me ask you this. How was your journey on Back to Basics? And do you have any last words to all the Back to Basics listeners and viewers so far before we take the calls?
How was my journey?
Yeah.
It's a great journey.
Awesome.
I'm flowing, I'm moving, I'm going. It's a good journey.
Thank you. And any last words to all the listeners and the viewers for all the stuff that we've been talking about today?
When I say happiness is a practice skill, it's like any other skill. And the more you commit to the practice, and it is a daily practice, you don't get breaks, you don't have vacations, you don't get days off. Prioritizing, making a commitment to it like anything else, it's totally up to the individual. And the first part of the practice just starts with eliminating all of the program behaviors that have been proven to subtract from peace. Now, what are some of those behaviors? Having expectations. How many of you out there worry? Anybody out there worry? Anyone? Well, really? Well, you know what worrying comes from? Only one thing: lack of trust. When you trust, there's no reason to worry. So it always comes back to the person and that person in the mirror. Trust. I worry about nothing. But again, I wasn't like this 20, 40 years ago. I mean, I practiced.
Sure.
Trusting. What do you practice? You don't practice not worrying. You just practice trusting.
I think that's a great advice for anybody, including myself. So, Rebecca, thank you again for that. Before we leave, guys, if you want to call in right now, please. For the next 10 minutes, we're going to be talking to Rebecca. We're going to go and chit chat with her. Please be mindful. The number is 513-YO-B2B1, which is 900-2221. And because we're number one, Back to Basics is number one. That's what it is, right, yes, Rebecca? So thank you again. And what are your thoughts when Back to Basics invited you to this platform? What were your first thoughts when you came on there?
I said, woohoo, woo, somebody wants to hear what I have to say. Yay! I just love sharing all of this. This is what I've discovered. And, I taught a class this morning and we're talking about rushing. Can you be at peace and rush at the same time? So it's just the little things. I have this is a whole list of program behaviors that subtract from your peace. So it's just little practices. Stop rushing. You'll be more peaceful. Start trusting. You'll be more peaceful. Oh, this is a big one. How many of you out here notice what other people are doing and then you make a judgment about it? That's subtracting from your peace. One of the practices is staying out of everybody else's business. Oh, excuse me. Staying out of everybody else's business. If you want to be a little bit happier, more peaceful, let these people go. They're on their own journey. It's none of your business.
Yeah, totally. Thank you again. And Jason or even Jasmine, if you guys want to call in, please call in. Let's go and chit chat because I want to talk to you. I mean, Rebecca wants to talk to you. I think both of us wants to talk to you guys. If you have any questions, please do ask. Rebecca, let me ask you this here. Is happiness the goal, or what do you think the goal should be in life?
Well, you're using a word that I never use. I never use that word should, and I never use that word mistake. There's nothing I should do. There's only what I'm inspired to do. So it's all inspiration. Should it just feels, for me, it feels heavy. I should. No, I'm inspired and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. The thing is, Jason just researched. He didn't believe this, but I did some research just now, and I came across this: the happiness and positive thinking industry estimated to be worth 11 billion a year. That's a lot, isn't it? Or is that a good thing?
Let me say something. Thank you so much for bringing that up. One of the things that this world sells, we hear it sells sex. No, this world sells dissatisfaction. Be dissatisfied with yourself. Be dissatisfied with the moment. Be dissatisfied with where you are in life. Be dissatisfied. That's what it sells. And it works. The programming tells us it's not enough. It's not enough. More. Let's go. But you get to a point. Well, not everybody gets to this point, which is okay too. But I'm very satisfied in every moment, regardless of what's happening or regardless of what's not happening. It's a vibration of feeling satisfied. And I guarantee that if you're dissatisfied in this moment, you will be dissatisfied in your future moments too, which is another programming. I'm dissatisfied. You didn't pop out, I'm dissatisfied. No, you learned that A, B, C, D is not happening. I'm dissatisfied. And let me just share this too, that whatever you're vibrating or whatever energy you are, whatever you're feeling in that moment, that is your contribution to this planet. You want to contribute to the planet, you want to serve the world, you know that what you're vibrating, if you're vibrating anger, sadness, irritation, that's your contribution.
But the thing is that we're selling more negativity versus happiness, and I think negativity sells, just like what you just mentioned. So, is it because we're attracted to negativity, or less positivity? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
We've all been programmed for unhappiness. It's a programming.
Because we want other people to be unhappy, and that makes us happy because you are unhappy.
I don't know. It's too general. Let me share a personal story.
Well, let's put it this way. I mean, I'm happy because you're suffering. Does that make sense?
Well, first of all, that's not true, because that they can say that, but anyone that is really happy that someone else is suffering is really not happy.
That is true.
That's just not the truth. We go back to the truth. What is the truth? What does the man with the hump in his back want more than anything else? The man that's walking with the hump in his back, what does he want more than anything else?
A no hump.
No, he wants you to have the hump too. He wants you to have the hump too.
That's right.
So it's very easy to recognize people that are not feeling peaceful. Very easy. Quick to anger, quick to get annoyed. And not to say that there's anything wrong with it. I'm not judging it. But just know that all of that instant reaction is a program. You were taught.
Yeah. Thank you again. And I think Jason has this one last comment, and then we're going to go and close down the session, if you don't mind. He says that I think we're programmed to believe and we don't have enough, and in order to be happy, you need to get this product and services. I mean, marketers call it happiness marketing. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, that's kind of true, isn't it? I mean, happiness negative marketing.
Well, I don't know about happiness negative marketing, but I definitely know that they're selling dissatisfaction. Let me just share this really quick. And a lot of people know my story that are listening. In 2018, my mother died. And I found out a few months later that she gifted the family house to her handyman. Now, the program response is, what? Oh my goodness. And it took me, so that's a program response. And it took me 2 weeks to start laughing at it. I mean, that's a funny ass story. Mother dies, gives the house to the handyman. So when I say it has nothing to do with anything that happens, it really has something to do with what you practice on a daily basis. And more importantly, how much do you value or do you prioritize being at peace? You either do or you don't. I just happen to I prioritize that over everything.
Do you think the thought processes and God bless to the family that you're going through, but let me ask you this: do you think it's because you are well settled versus the handyman, and I think we should donate to a person who's in need? You think that was the thought process of this?
Of what? My mother donating the house to the handyman?
Yeah.
No, that was a whole setup by the universe. That was a setup. It wasn't my mother doing it. It wasn't the handyman. It wasn't the attorney. It was for me to learn more lessons about not having any attachments, not having expectations, not blaming. No, it's a universal setup. We are all being served at all times.
Yeah.
But the programming says something's wrong here. When I talked about the perspective, it's another practice. Are you able to, if you can only see it one way, that means that now, if you only can see it one way, you definitely know that's the ego. So when you open and you practice coming up with another perspective, then you will be able to find peace with other perspectives. And that's another practice. Can you find another perspective to something that you're being challenged by in the moment? Can you do that?
Well, it'll take me a while, but I think I can. I think I can. I know I can. If I put my mind to it, I think I can. Right?
You know, the biggest thing I get with people when I tell them you want to eliminate, here's a good one, eliminate disappointment and heartbreak for the rest of your life. Is anybody interested in that? Is anybody interested in eliminating heartbreak and disappointment for the rest of their life? Anybody interested in that? Let go, eliminate all expectations. 0 expectations. I didn't expect that we were going to do this interview until we're doing the interview. Even if I have a ticket on an airplane, or I'm not expecting until I'm in the moment.
Sure.
So that, and what I get is a lot. That's hard, Rebecca. That's so hard. Yeah, it is difficult, but anything worthwhile. But it's if you value it, if you value being at peace, I'll do the hard work.
Yeah.
I mean, you do the hard work for other things. I can do that hard work to be at peace. It's worth it to me.
Yeah, Rebecca, thank you again for giving all the nuggets and the golden nuggets. And I think I'm gonna keep on calling you and getting some, and get some energy out of you into me. So thank you again for coming here, and thank you everyone, whoever's online, for supporting me and supporting Rebecca on the session today. And it was great knowing you, Rebecca, for coming on Back to Basics for the first time, and hopefully you'll come back again for the third time and the fourth time, because I feel like talking to you over and over again when it comes to happiness. So thank you again for coming here on the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Thank you again. So guys, we spoke with Rebecca today, and thank you again all for supporting me. But as usual, as always, there is a quote of the day from Back to Basics. And you know what, just an FYI, this quote was actually taken from Rebecca's website. So I'm going to be using that quote because it looks like that quote resonates to all the stuff that we've been talking about today. And the quote is, here we go. The quote is, you cannot have a happy ending to a unhappy journey. And that's damn true, isn't it? I mean, that's what we've been talking about this whole episode. And thank you again, Rebecca, for giving that quote for the day. Now, as usual, as always, what do we always say at the end of the episode? Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care, God bless, and keep on commenting on all the stuff that I do, because I try my hardest day by day, week by week, just by your support and your comments. And there are three things, according to this episode, for me, that is, it's a hit, which is the content, the guest, and definitely the host. Guys, take care, God. Next week's episode on Back to Basics.
The tools that are there, using a little bit of time to master them so that life becomes easier, life becomes more fun, more enriching, and we're not spending so much time on laborious things that technology could do for us.
Yeah, thank you again. And do you think it's people, they get discouraged when we use the word digital?
Well, some do. I think there are people that are overwhelmed. They think it's going to be hard, and there are other.